I didn't do anything. You have the right to remain silent.
This can't be happening!
We'll get a lawyer. I have information that can change everything.
What is it? Tell me. Why? Why is this happening to me? I can't take this pain anymore! Please, make it stop! Mr. Blackwood, these are the documents.
What is this about?
It's all in the papers.
Wait, this doesn't add up. A 15,000 withdrawal? That's not authorized. I need to check the logs now. I didn't do this! This wasn't me! I have to get out!
You look handsome tonight.
And you are stunning. A lovely couple.
The worst night of my life started with a knock that didn't sound human. It sounded like judgment. I was 22, sitting at the kitchen table, staring at unfinished project drafts when the front door shook. My father looked up from his glass of whiskey. "Were you expecting someone, Ethan?" "No," I said. "It's almost midnight." The knocking came again. Harder. Margaret rushed in from the hallway. "Richard, who is that?" "I'll check," I said, already feeling something twist inside my chest. When I opened the door, 2 police officers stood there. "Ethan Hale," one of them asked. "Yes. We need you to step aside." "What's going on?" I asked. They walked in without waiting for permission. My father stood up slowly. "Officers, is there a problem?" "We have a warrant to search the property," the taller officer said. "We're investigating financial fraud tied to Hale Construction." I laughed nervously. "Fraud? That has to be a mistake." Daniel walked down the stairs, adjusting his sleeves. He didn't look surprised. He looked prepared. "What's happening?" he asked, but his voice was too calm. The officer turned to me. "Mr. Hale, you're suspected of embezzling company funds." My heart dropped. "What? That's insane." Margaret gasped loudly. "Ethan, tell me that's not true." "It's not true," I shouted. "Dad, say something." My father's jaw tightened. "Officers, my son handles some of our digital accounts." "I handle invoices," I said quickly. "Not transfers." "We have evidence of illegal transactions authorized under your credentials," the officer replied. "That's impossible," I said. "I didn't authorize anything." Daniel stepped closer to me. "Ethan, if you made a mistake, now's the time to admit it." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" He lowered his voice. "Just tell him the truth. It'll be easier." "I'm telling the truth." The officers moved toward my office. I followed them. "You won't find anything." One officer opened my laptop on the desk. "Password." I hesitated. "What?" "Password," he repeated. I gave it to him. We all stood there while he typed. The room felt smaller by the second. "Here," he said, turning the screen toward us. "Bank transfers. Large amounts. My digital signature." "That's not real," I whispered. "I never did that." "There are 6 transactions totaling $2 million, the officer said. "All approved from this device." My father looked at me like he didn't recognize me. "Ethan, tell me this isn't yours." "It's not," I said. "Dad, you know me." Margaret started crying. "How could you do this to us?" "I didn't do anything." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "I told you we shouldn't have given him that much responsibility." I felt something crack inside me. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you've been under pressure," Daniel said quietly. "Maybe you made bad decisions." "You're lying," I said. "Why are you saying that?" The officer pulled out printed documents. "We also found backup files linked to offshore accounts." "Offshore?" I repeated. "I don't even know how to open one." Daniel wouldn't look at me. The officer turned to me again. "Mr. Hale, you are under arrest for corporate embezzlement and financial fraud." Cold metal cuffs snapped around my wrist before I could process the words. "Dad," I said, my voice shaking. "Please, you know I wouldn't steal from you." He didn't answer. "Daniel," I whispered. "Tell them." He finally looked at me. His eyes were empty. "I can't protect you from this, Ethan." "Protect me? From what?" Margaret sobbed louder. "Our reputation is ruined." "Our reputation?" I said. "I'm your son." The officer guided me toward the door. "I didn't do this," I kept saying. "Check the logs. Check the IP addresses. Someone hacked me." Daniel's voice followed me. "You should have been more careful." I stopped walking. "What does that mean?" He didn't respond. Outside, neighbors watched from their windows. I felt exposed, stripped of everything I thought was solid. As they pushed me toward the patrol car, I saw Daniel standing next to my father. They weren't shocked. They were silent. That silence hurt more than the cuffs. The officer opened the car door. "Watch your head." I turned one last time. "Dad," I called out. "Look at me." He finally did. And I saw it. Not confusion. Not doubt. Acceptance. Like he had already decided who I was. I searched Daniel's face. "Did you know about this?" He didn't answer. Margaret held onto my father's arm and whispered something I couldn't hear. I felt my throat close. They had already chosen. The door slammed shut. Through the window, I stared at them. The people who raised me, who share my name. And in that moment, the truth hit me harder than any accusation. This wasn't a mistake. It was a setup. They weren't trying to understand. They were letting it happen. As the car pulled away, I leaned my forehead against the glass and whispered the only word that made sense. "What?" The first night in prison, I didn't sleep. "You'll get used to it," the guard said as he shoved me into the cell. "I don't belong here," I muttered. "Everyone says that," he replied before the door slammed shut. I sat on the lower bunk, staring at the gray wall. The sound of metal doors closing echoed down the corridor like a warning. Across from me, a man with graying hair watched quietly. "First week?" he asked. "Is it that obvious?" "You're still angry." "I've been framed," I snapped. "That's not anger. That's injustice." He gave a small nod. "Name?" "Ethan." "I'm Marcus." I didn't respond. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. The next morning, someone bumped into me in the cafeteria. "Watch it," the inmate growled. "Sorry," I said quickly. "Sorry won't help you in here." Marcus appeared beside me. "He's with me," he said calmly. The man looked Marcus over, then walked away. I frowned. "I didn't ask for help." "You didn't need to," Marcus replied. "You looked like prey." "I'm not weak." "Then stop looking like you're about to cry." His words hit harder than I expected. That night I exploded. I didn't steal anything. I shouted at the empty air. "Lower your voice," Marcus said from his bunk. "They ruined me. My own family. Yelling won't change it. You don't understand." He climbed down and sat across from me. "You don't survive by screaming. You survive by thinking." I clenched my fists. Thinking about what? About who benefits from you being here. I didn't answer. I already knew. Weeks passed. I kept replaying that night in my head. Daniel saying, "Just tell them the truth." My father's silence. Margaret's fake tears. I punched the wall one evening. Why would they do this? Marcus looked up from a book. "Money. It's our company." "Not anymore," he said quietly. "Not while you're here." A letter arrived 3 weeks later. I stared at my father's handwriting before opening it. Marcus watched me. "Good news," I read aloud, my voice shaking. "Daniel has stepped up to lead the company during this difficult time. We are disappointed in your actions." "I am ashamed." I stopped reading. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Ashamed? My own father," I whispered. He didn't even ask if I was innocent. "What do you think?" "I think he already decided." Another letter came days later from a former coworker. "Daniel is doing interviews," I read. "He says he never expected betrayal from his own brother." I crushed the paper in my hand. Marcus leaned back. "There it is." "What?" "Your replacement." I looked at him. He wanted this. Sounds like it. I trusted him. "Trust is expensive in here," Marcus said. "And out there." One night, after lights out, he spoke softly. "Did you really do it?" The question hung between us. "No," I said. "I didn't." He climbed down slowly and stood in front of me. He studied my face like he was measuring something. "You're either a good liar," he said, "or you're telling the truth." "I'm telling the truth." He nodded once. "Then don't waste this pain. Use it." "Use it how?" "I'm stuck in here." "You've got time," he replied. "Time to think. Time to learn. Time to plan." "Plan what?" "The day you walk out." I felt something shift inside me. What if no one believes me? Then bring proof they can't ignore. I laughed bitterly. "You think I can outsmart my own family?" "I think pain sharpens people," Marcus said. "Right now it's breaking you. Decide which one you want." I lay awake that night, staring at the dark ceiling. The next morning, I didn't yell. When someone shoved past me in line, I didn't react. Marcus noticed. "Good," he said. "I need books," I told him. "What kind?" "Finance. Law. Anything about digital systems." He smirked. "Now you're thinking." Days turned into routine. I read in the yard. I listened more than I spoke. When inmates argued, I stepped back. Marcus would nod at me, sometimes like a silent test I was starting to pass. Another letter came. This one had a newspaper clipping inside. Daniel's face smiled from the front page. Hale Construction enters new era under Daniel Hale. I showed Marcus. He looks comfortable, Marcus said. He looks like he won. Did he? For now. Marcus crossed his arms. Then stopped acting defeated. I folded the paper carefully instead of tearing it. I won't stay the week one, I said quietly. Good. I looked at my reflection in the scratched metal mirror that night. I didn't do this, I whispered to myself. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was begging to be believed. I felt something colder, something focused. Marcus lay back on his bunk. You done crying? Yes. Good, he said. Because now you start building. Building what? Your way back. I closed my eyes. They thought prison would break me. They thought shame would silence me. But as I lay there in the dark, I realized something. They had given me time. Time to think. Time to see them clearly. And for the first time since the cuffs closed around my wrists, I wasn't replaying the night of my arrest. I was replaying Daniel's face. And I was planning. 3 years had passed. I wasn't the same Ethan who cried on my bunk those first nights. I had learned to sit quietly, observe, and think. Anger still simmered, but it was controlled now, sharpened into focus. Every word, every movement in this prison felt like a calculation. New guy, someone muttered one morning. A tall man with neatly trimmed hair was escorted into the cell block. He looked calm, like he had already analyzed every person around him. He was assigned next to me. I nodded. I'm Ethan. Calvin, he said, shaking my hand. Brooks. We didn't speak much for the first few days, just exchanged polite nods. Then one night during dinner, he leaned over. You look like you've got a story. I shrugged. Everyone here has a story. Doesn't mean it's worth telling. You're wrong, he said. Some stories are worth listening to. Yours looks like one. I hesitated, then found myself spilling it out. My family framed me, stole everything, left me in prison for something I didn't do. Calvin raised his eyebrows. Framed you? That's professional. What do you mean professional? I asked. You said the transfers were fake, right? Yes. Then someone knew exactly what to plant, how to hide it, and make it stick. That's not amateur. That's methodical. I swallowed. My brother, Daniel, he had access. That night, he said he needed to print something for my laptop. I didn't think much of it. Now, he leaned back and studied me. Now it clicks. We started talking in whispers after that. He explained how digital evidence can be manipulated, logs altered, remote access used, files planted to create fake trails. If someone wanted to ruin you, they could make it look like it came from you without ever touching your keyboard, he said. I ran my hands over my face. So, Daniel could have done this. He nodded. And if he did, your father and stepmother might not even know the technical details. They could just approve things blindly. I froze. A memory hit me, Daniel standing behind me, clicking print. He looked innocent, helpful even. I whispered to myself, my own brother. Calvin noticed the pause. Something wrong? I shook my head quickly. Nothing. Just thinking. We spent weeks in secret, comparing details, analyzing every paper, every procedure I had followed at the company. He taught me how to spot signs of digital tampering, how data can be copied, modified, and planted without leaving obvious evidence. Look, he said one night, sliding a sheet toward me. If someone wanted to make you guilty, they could cover every step, every transaction, even your approvals. You'd never know until someone shows you the pattern. My chest tightened. Every step Daniel had taken now made sense. The calm voice, the friendly assistance, the way he had helped me with the laptop. I couldn't breathe for a moment. He set me up. He knew exactly what he was doing. Calvin leaned forward. And your family? They didn't question it. I shook my head. No, they believed it, or pretended to, or they needed to believe it. The thought made me sick. They had sacrificed me, my life, my freedom, just to protect themselves. I can't just prove I'm innocent, I said quietly. I need to show what they did. All of it. You've got time, Calvin said. You're smart. You've learned the hard way. Use it. I don't want revenge, I said at first. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. I wanted the truth out there. That's better than revenge, he said. It's clean. They can't argue with facts. I sat back against the wall, heart pounding. I'll need to gather everything, cross-check accounts, document every anomaly. I have to make sure no one can twist it. Exactly, Calvin said. Start small, build the case. You can't rush this. That night, I lay on my bunk staring at the ceiling. I couldn't erase Daniel's face from my mind. That moment with the laptop, his calm, knowing eyes. The betrayal that had destroyed my life. I whispered again, my own brother. But beneath the hurt, beneath the anger, a spark formed. I wouldn't just clear my name. I wouldn't just survive. I would expose them. Every lie, every fake transaction, every hidden account. And when I did, no one would ever be able to doubt what they did or what I endured. For the first time in 3 years, I felt purpose. Calvin turned off the light. Rest. Tomorrow we start building. I closed my eyes, mind racing. Not just to survive, not just to be free, but to reveal the truth. The walls of this prison could contain my body, but they could not contain my plan. And in the darkness, I finally smiled. I would make them pay. Not with violence, not with threats, but with the one thing they feared most, the truth. The gates opened before dawn. I blinked against the light, unaccustomed to it. 5 years. 5 years behind walls that smelled of metal and despair. No one was waiting. No family. No Daniel. No Margaret. No father. Just the cold morning air and a sky that looked too big. I hugged my coat tighter around myself. So, this is freedom, I whispered. Empty, but free. A car pulled up. A black sedan, clean, quiet. The window rolled down. Ethan. Yes, I said, stepping forward. I'm Lena Reed, she said. Marcus's sister. He told me to pick you up. Marcus? I asked. She smiled faintly. Your mentor. He says you'll need someone who believes in you out here. I hesitated. Nobody else does. Then start with me, she said. The drive was quiet. I stared out the window, half listening, half lost in thought. My stomach churned. I had nothing. No home. No money. No family. Just the memories that haunted me. At her firm, Lena led me inside. I know this is sudden. I can offer you a position. Part-time, accounting, digital audits. You want it? Yes, I said slowly. Thank you. She didn't ask questions about my past. She didn't judge. She just treated me like I mattered. For the first time in years, I felt a small spark of normalcy. Weeks turned into months. I read manuals, financial statements, legal codes, anything that could sharpen my skills. Lena never complained about my pace, never doubted me. You've got a talent for spotting inconsistencies, she said one afternoon. I shrugged. I guess all that prison time taught me to notice patterns. She raised an eyebrow. You've got a story, don't you? Maybe, I said, but I've learned it's safer to listen than speak. One evening, she leaned back in her chair and said something that hit me like a punch. If you're innocent, prove it. I froze. What do you mean? You were framed. You say it, but words don't matter. Proof matters. Facts matter. You want your life back, you gather evidence. You show the truth. Her eyes locked with mine. Or you'll keep living behind that wall, even outside. I didn't respond at first. Then slowly I nodded. You're right. The next day, I started. Public records, filings, tax statements, company reports. Everything. I sifted through spreadsheets, logs, corporate announcements. At first, it was overwhelming. But then patterns emerged. Numbers that didn't add up. Land sales with unexplained profits. Transfers between accounts with no proper documentation. I whispered under my breath. This isn't just a frame. There's something bigger here. Lena stopped by my desk. What is it? I don't know yet, I admitted. But Daniel, my family, they aren't just hiding the truth about me. They're hiding a lot more. She tilted her head. You're serious about this, aren't you? Every day I spent in prison, I thought about them, I said. Now I have the chance to find out exactly what they did. She nodded. Then start small. Focus on one thing at a time. Don't rush. I closed my laptop and rubbed my eyes. I thought freedom would feel different, I said. Freedom isn't easy, Lena said. It's a start. You're already moving. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My hands itched to dive into the numbers again, to find the inconsistencies, the lies, the proof that could destroy them. I thought of Daniel's face that night of the arrest. Calm, confident, like he had planned it all. My father's silence. Margaret's fake tears. I whispered, they can't hide anymore. The first Betrayal lead came that afternoon. A report from the company's public filings showed profits in certain projects that made no sense. I stared at the numbers. What is this? I muttered. Lena looked over my shoulder. Looks like someone cooked the books. Yes, I said, gripping the edge of the table. And they used me as the scapegoat. My chest tightened, but it wasn't panic. It was purpose. Anger-fueled focus. Years of frustration, shame, and helplessness boiled into determination. I whispered again, this time louder. If I'm innocent, I'll prove it. Not just for me, for the truth. Lena smiled faintly. Good. That's the fire you need. I opened another file, another statement, diving deeper. Each anomaly felt like a thread I could pull, unraveling the story they tried to bury. For the first time in 5 years, I felt like I wasn't just surviving. I was building. And when I was done, they would pay, not with anger, not with revenge, but with exposure. I would show the world exactly who they were, and no one would ever doubt me again. I returned to my hometown quietly. My steps were careful, my face low. 5 years away had changed me. Prison had aged me, sharpened me, made me cautious. No one seemed to notice me at first. The streets looked familiar yet alien, filled with old memories I didn't want to relive. I walked past the old park, past our family home, and finally stopped in front of Hale Construction's new headquarters. The building towered above me, gleaming glass and steel. Bigger, better, intimidating. Daniel's empire, I muttered to myself. All built on lies. Inside, employees buzzed past, but no one questioned me. I moved with purpose, observing, taking note of security, cameras, and guards. Daniel had grown into the image he wanted, a young business genius, praised in magazines, conferences, and news headlines. I caught a glimpse of my father through the lobby window. Older, his hair grayer, shoulders slumped just a little. Pride mixed with worry, the way only someone used to control could carry. I didn't approach him. Not yet. I had another mission. Olivia Carter. I found her in the project management office. She looked up from her desk, startled. Ethan, she whispered. I smiled faintly. Olivia. Her eyes widened, and I could see the tension immediately. She stood, then sank back into her chair. They told me, you confessed. I didn't, I said quietly. I never confessed. Her breath caught, and she hesitated. Then she said, I never believed them. I nodded. Relief and sadness washed over me. She had been forced to leave, pressured by Daniel and Margaret. She had been a part of my life when the world felt safe. Now, she was here, still believing in me. I need your help, I said. She studied me, cautious. I'm still part of the company. I can't risk anything. Not anymore. You can, I said firmly. If you help me, I can show you proof that everything they accuse me of, and more, is built on lies and corruption. Olivia's eyes searched mine. Finally, she leaned in. All right, but we do this carefully. We met in secret in the corners of the office during breaks when no one was watching. She began leaking small internal details, discrepancies in accounts, unusual transfers, land deals that made no sense. Look at this, she whispered one afternoon, sliding a folder across the table. These numbers, they don't match the project costs. I scanned the sheets. My stomach tightened. This isn't just embezzlement. This is systematic fraud. Daniel, Dad, they're hiding profits, moving money offshore. The irony burns, Olivia said quietly. They framed you for a tiny part of what they're actually doing. I clenched my fists. They made me the scapegoat for their empire of lies. She nodded. I've been watching, collecting pieces for months. I never had proof I could trust. Now you do, I said. I need everything. Reports, emails, memos, contracts, anything unusual. Over the next days, we worked in silence, exchanging files and whispered warnings. I couldn't risk suspicion. Every conversation was cautious, deliberate. Daniel just approved a land sale yesterday, Olivia said. But the property was never properly valued. I raised an eyebrow. So someone's pocketing the difference? Exactly, she whispered. And it's not small. I leaned back, letting the numbers sink in. This goes far beyond the accusation that ruined me. This is fraud at a scale that could destroy them if it ever came out. Her voice trembled slightly. Do you want it to? Yes, I said firmly. I want the truth exposed. Not just for me, but for everyone they've hurt. She nodded, glancing at the office doors. I'll get you more records, but carefully. If Daniel notices, it's over. I understand, I said. We proceed slowly, step by step. We uncovered more anomalies each day. Transfers between shell companies, fake invoices, inflated project costs, offshore accounts with no clear origin. Every detail painted a bigger picture than I had imagined. I whispered to myself, staring at the documents. They thought they were untouchable, that framing me would cover their tracks. But I'm seeing everything now. Olivia watched me. You're still, angry. I smirked faintly. Anger is fuel. I've had years to let it build. Her eyes softened. Just don't let it blind you. I won't, I promised. I need to see clearly. I can't afford mistakes. We worked late into the evenings, hiding our activities in plain sight. Every piece of evidence we gathered was another thread pulling at the empire they thought was untouchable. I paused, staring at a series of transfers. Daniel, Margaret, Dad, they all think they control me. But I'm inside their world now, and I'm the one who sees it clearly. Olivia leaned back, tired but resolute. And you'll make them pay? I smiled faintly. Not with threats, not with revenge, with the truth. She nodded. Then let's continue. Carefully, I felt a fire inside me I hadn't felt in years. The man who had been broken and betrayed was gone. This version of me was patient, smart, and ready. I whispered again to myself. This time, I'm not just surviving. I'm taking control. And with Olivia's help, I would begin unraveling the cracks in their empire, one piece of evidence at a time. I sat at my desk, laptop humming softly, a cup of cold coffee beside me. Lena leaned over, pointing at a spreadsheet. Look here, Ethan. This isn't just mismanagement. I scrolled through the numbers, my stomach tightening. Offshore accounts, all connected to Daniel. This is beyond what I imagined. Calvin's voice came through the video call. Those accounts aren't just passive. Money is moving daily. Small transfers, just enough to avoid notice, but it adds up. I nodded slowly, and it's been going on for years. Lena frowned. There are also unauthorized land deals. Your father signed them, but the contracts were manipulated. Profit disappears into the same accounts. I rub my eyes, and Margaret, her signature shows up in shell companies. They're all in on it. Calvin's tone was serious. This isn't just framing. They continued the crime after you were arrested. I closed my laptop for a moment and leaned back. They destroyed me to cover this, but they kept stealing. Lena placed her hand on my shoulder. You can stop them now, Ethan. You've got proof. I shook my head, anxiety pressing on me. It's not just proof. If I expose this, their reputations, everything they've built, it'll crumble. Publicly. Then be careful, Calvin said. The evidence needs to be airtight. Any mistake, they'll fight back. I stared at the floor, feeling the weight of it all. For years, I had imagined revenge, imagined exposing them. But now the reality of the consequences made my chest tight. Ethan, Lena's voice broke through my thoughts. We've been careful. We've covered every detail. You're ready. I nodded slowly, but doubt lingered. My fingers tapped the table. I can't let my anger decide this. Marcus was right. Don't let revenge turn you into them. Lena gave a small smile. Then you use this for truth, not anger. I inhaled deeply. Right. The next week, Olivia risked everything. She stayed late at the office when no one was watching, her hands shaking slightly as she copied files from secure company drives. You shouldn't be doing this, I whispered when she handed me a flash drive in a deserted parking lot. I have to, she said, her eyes serious. I can't stay silent. They're destroying everything. I held the flash drive like it was a weapon. This is the truth. Every secret, every lie. You have to be careful, she said. Once it's out, nothing can undo it. I nodded. I know. We walked to our cars in silence. Her risk weighed on me. You could lose your job, or worse. I'm already taking that chance, she said. But I believe in you. That night, I stared at the files on my laptop. Every line of data, Every PDF, every signed document. Offshore accounts, hidden land deals, shell companies with my mother's signature, everything. I whispered to myself, they didn't just frame me, they kept stealing while I rotted in prison. I felt a surge of anger, but I pushed it down. Marcus's voice echoed. Don't let revenge turn you into them. I closed my eyes. I had the power now, the truth. But power required restraint. I couldn't act out of emotion. Calvin's video call pinged. Everything all right? I looked at the screen. Yes. I'm thinking. You have a decision, he said. Do it carefully for the right reason. I will, I promised. I began organizing the files. I labeled everything meticulously. Account trails, transaction dates, signatures, manipulated contracts. Every piece had a story. Every piece built the case. Lena helped remotely, checking cross-references, verifying that no data was corrupted, that every line could stand up under scrutiny. This is solid, she said. Any lawyer or auditor will see it's undeniable. I nodded, swallowing hard. I need to make sure the world knows the truth, not just to punish them. Marcus was right. Revenge can turn you into them. I can't let it. Olivia called late that night. Did you check everything? I did, I said. I've cross-checked it all. Every transaction, every document. This is it. The full story. She paused. Then what now? I looked at the flash drive, then at her. We wait. We prepare. The truth will speak for itself. She nodded. I'll support you. Whatever happens, I'll be there. I felt the weight lift slightly, but not completely. This was bigger than me, bigger than the betrayal, bigger than the anger I'd carried for years. I whispered again, quietly, to no one. This is justice, not revenge. I won't become them. I plugged in a flash drive one last time and reviewed the files. Everything lined up perfectly. Offshore accounts with money tracing back to Daniel. Land deals my father authorized. Shell companies signed by Margaret. Evidence of the empire they built on lies and theft. The irony burned inside me. They thought they destroyed me. They thought prison and shame would silence me. But now I had the truth, and I had the power to show it. Not for vengeance, not for pride, for justice. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the glow of the laptop screen. My hands were steady, my mind clear. I whispered to myself, they can't hide anymore. The flash drive felt heavy in my hand, but it was more than weight. It was responsibility. Marcus's words echoed one final time. Don't let revenge turn you into them. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and nodded. This was the moment I had been preparing for. I was ready. I walked into the grand ballroom, the soft hum of conversation and clinking glasses washing over me. Chandeliers sparkled above, reflecting off-polished marble floors. I adjusted my jacket, keeping my face calm, my steps measured. The Hale Charity Gala, the same event I had once attended as their obedient son, now a place I walked into with purpose. Daniel froze the moment he saw me. His glass slipped from his hand. Impossible, he whispered, eyes wide. I smiled faintly, letting the silence stretch. Miss me, I said, my voice steady. He blinked, searching my face for a trick. I didn't move, didn't flinch. My father's expression shifted, white, shocked. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Margaret's hand went to her mouth, eyes darting nervously. I ignored the whispers around me, the curious stares. I knew why they were here. The money, the image, the control. All of it. And now, I had the power to strip it away. I led them to a private room at the back. No one followed. The door clicked shut. I placed the printed documents on the polished table, one by one. Offshore accounts, land deals, shell companies, every fraudulent transfer, every manipulated contract, meticulously highlighted. I know everything, I said simply, voice steady but sharp. Daniel leaned over, trying to mask fear with arrogance. You think you can intimidate us? No one will believe a criminal. I met his gaze. They will when the FBI does. He recoiled slightly, but anger flared. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, I replied. I've spent years collecting proof. Every lie, every fake transaction, every signed approval that wasn't yours. It's all here. Margaret's composure cracked. She buried her face in her hands, voice trembling. We needed someone to take the fall. The company was collapsing. We didn't have a choice. I looked at her sharply. A choice? You ruined me to cover your mistakes. She shook her head violently. I didn't want this. I swear. But we were desperate. Daniel slammed his fist on the table, his eyes wild. You were the weakest. You made it easy. Easy, I said, voice rising. You call destroying your own brother easy. Olivia, standing quietly in the corner, had recorded the entire confession on her phone. Every word, every tremor in their voices. Daniel lunged forward, voice sharp. You think this will change anything? People won't believe you. I leaned back, calm. They will when the FBI sees these accounts. Every illegal transfer, every shell company, every document linking you all to fraud. You've been playing with fire for years. Margaret gasped, covering her mouth again. You never wanted to admit the truth, I said. So you made me the scapegoat. 5 years. 5 years of my life, stolen for your greed. Daniel laughed bitterly, but it was hollow. You'll never undo what's been done. I picked up one of the sheets, tapping it on the table. No, but this shows the truth. And this, I gestured to the stack of documents, is enough to bring justice. Margaret sobbed openly now. We were afraid. We didn't know how to stop it. Everything was falling apart. Afraid? I echoed. You ruined your own family. Daniel's face twisted in anger, shame, and fear. You're nothing. You were always weak. I smiled faintly. Weak? You framed me, imprisoned me, and still call me weak? No. Weakness is thinking you can destroy someone and escape unscathed. Margaret collapsed into a chair, crying, shaking her head. I never wanted this to happen. I leaned forward, voice low and cold. Your confession is on record. Every word, every detail, recorded, and the FBI will see it. Daniel's hands trembled on the table. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I let the silence stretch, letting the weight of their guilt settle on them, the same way it had weighed on me for years. Margaret looked at me through tear-filled eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. You're sorry? I said, voice sharp. Sorry doesn't undo 5 years in prison, Daniel. Sorry doesn't bring back my life. Sorry doesn't erase the lies you built on my back. Olivia's phone pinged softly. I glanced at her, the confession captured in perfect clarity. Daniel turned his face away, unable to meet mine. I exhaled slowly. This ends tonight. Not with anger. Not with revenge. With the truth. And now everyone will know. Margaret buried her face in her hands. Daniel's jaw clenched. My father's eyes darted between the documents and my face, powerless. I whispered softly, to no one in particular, it's finally over. And for the first time in years, I felt the weight in my chest ease, replaced with something sharper, colder, and infinitely more satisfying. Justice. The phone rang early, shaking me awake. Lena's voice came through, urgent. Ethan, authorities are here. They're reviewing the documents. You did it. They're taking it seriously. I sat up, heart pounding. Already, yes. The FBI confirmed everything. Your evidence is solid. I ran a hand through my hair. Years of planning, years of waiting, and now it was finally moving. News alerts pinged nonstop on my laptop. Headlines screamed. Hale Construction under investigation. Offshore accounts linked to fraud uncovered. The wrongfully convicted son exposes family empire. I stared at the screen. The empire my family built on lies was unraveling in real time. I walked outside, letting the cold air hit my face. It was victory, but it felt hollow. Olivia's voice pulled me back. They're questioning Daniel. The evidence is overwhelming. I nodded, looking toward the city skyline. I know. And my father? Public breakdown, she said softly. They asked about his involvement. He couldn't handle it. Cameras caught him crying, stammering, trying to explain. I closed my eyes. Seeing him like that, I couldn't feel triumph. Only sadness. Margaret, predictably, tried to shift the blame. It was all Daniel, she shouted at reporters outside. He did this alone. But the evidence was irrefutable. The shell companies, the signed contracts, the financial trails, it all pointed to a coordinated effort. She couldn't escape it. Justice, Lena whispered beside me. Finally, I shook my head. Justice, yes. Satisfaction, no. Daniel was arrested later that afternoon. Handcuffs, the flash of cameras, the shouting of reporters. His face twisted in disbelief. Anger, shame, fear. I heard him mumble as he was led away. Ethan, this isn't fair. I didn't answer. Words couldn't fix this. The press began to label me the wrongfully convicted son, the man who exposed Hale Construction. Articles, interviews, commentary. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. I felt numb. This was everything I had worked for, the vindication, the truth laid bare. Yet, standing there, I realized it didn't feel good. Not really. Olivia found me later, outside the courthouse. She leaned against the railing, arms crossed. Does it feel good? She asked quietly. I looked at her, the weight of years pressing down. Honestly, I whispered, it feels empty. She frowned slightly. Empty? Yeah, I said. They were still my family. No matter what they did, no matter how much I suffered. I lost them too. Not just my freedom, not just my reputation. My family. All of it. Her eyes softened. I get that. But you've done what no one else could. You've shown the truth. I nodded slowly. I did. But knowing they're broken, exposed, everyone sees their lies, it doesn't bring back the life I lost. Or the people I trusted. Lena joined us then, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You're allowed to feel that. Victory isn't always sweet. Sometimes it's just necessary. I exhaled deeply, staring at the courthouse steps where Daniel had been taken. Necessary, I repeated. Yes, but it still hurts. Olivia reached out, touching my arm. At least you're free now. That counts for something. I gave a faint smile. It counts. But freedom has a cost I didn't anticipate. Reporters shouted questions, flashes of cameras, the chaos of exposure. I kept my head down, letting it pass. The world knew the truth, and they would know it for years to come. But inside, the hollowness remained. Justice had arrived. Karma had broken the door, but it hadn't repaired the holes in my heart. I whispered, almost to myself, they were my family. And they're gone, in every way that mattered. Olivia squeezed my arm. Then we moved forward. Together. I nodded again, finally letting myself breathe. The past was behind me. The truth was out. And while victory felt heavy, I knew one thing. I would survive. I would rebuild. The headlines would fade. The world would move on. But I carried the lessons, the scars, and the resolve to never be powerless again. The doors of my life had been broken open. Karma had arrived. And I was standing on the other side, ready for whatever came next. I entered the visiting room at the prison, the same sterile room I had stared at for months during my sentence. The tables were lined with mirrors, reflecting every movement. Daniel was already there, sitting stiffly across from me, hands folded, eyes avoiding mine. Ethan, he said quietly when I approached. Thanks for seeing me. I pulled out the chair and sat down. Silence stretched between us, filled with years of betrayal, pain, and unspoken truths. I needed to talk before they sentenced me. He said finally, voice tight. I can't go to jail without telling you something. I studied him. He looked smaller somehow, fragile, not the arrogant man who had ruined my life. Go ahead, I said. He swallowed hard. I was scared. Dad was losing everything. The company, the money, everything my parents built was falling apart. I didn't know what to do, and I panicked. I thought framing you would save us all. I raised an eyebrow, voice low. So you chose me? My life? My freedom? His gaze fell to the table. Yes. I felt a flash of anger, hot and bitter. You made me the scapegoat for your cowardice. You destroyed my life, Daniel. I know, he whispered. I can't change that. I regret it every day. Every moment in prison, I thought about what I did to you. For the first time, I didn't see a monster. I saw a scared, broken boy masquerading as a man. The same fear that had controlled him had dictated my suffering. I clenched my fists under the table. Do you know what it felt like? To wake up handcuffed, accused of crimes I didn't commit? To watch my family pretend I was guilty? I can't imagine, he said, voice shaking. I wish I could take it all back. I stared at him, searching for the arrogance, the cruelty I remembered, but it was gone. In its place, a trembling human weighed down by guilt. You broke me, I said softly. You and everyone else. But that doesn't give you the right to dictate how I feel now. He nodded slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you the truth before it's too late. I leaned back, exhaling. The anger I'd carried for years was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but no longer consumed me entirely. I realized that holding onto it had been giving Daniel power, even from afar. I won't forgive you, I said, voice firm, deliberate. Not now, not ever, but I won't let you control me anymore. He flinched at my words, eyes wide, as if he had expected some kind of mercy. There wasn't any. There was only closure. I needed to hear this, I continued. And now I have. You can stay in prison, and I'll live my life. But you won't ruin me anymore. That ends today. His shoulders slumped. I understand. I watched him for a moment, really saw him for the first time. The fear that had driven him, the weakness that had manipulated us all, and the cowardice that had framed me. It was all there. And yet, he was still my brother, still human. I realized I had a choice. To let this hatred define me, or to let it go and reclaim my life. Years of anger had built me into someone who could endure, who could think, who could act. It was time to use that strength for myself, not for vengeance. You're done controlling me, I said again, voice calm. No more lies, no more games. I'm taking my life back. He nodded again, silence filling the space between us. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. I stood, brushing off my pants. I hope you can live with yourself, I said, and I hope you learn from this. Daniel looked up, eyes glistening. I will. I swear. I gave a faint nod, turning toward the exit. With every step, I felt lighter than I expected. The weight of years of betrayal, of anger, it was lifting, not gone entirely, but diminished. Outside, the sunlight was harsh and warm, a stark contrast to the cold walls behind me. I breathed deeply, savoring the freedom of choice, the clarity of purpose. No family, no brother, no past could hold me down anymore. I whispered to myself as I walked away, this is my life now, my rules, my choices. For the first time in years, I felt in control, not just of my future, but of my own emotions. And that power was better than revenge ever could be. I stepped into the world beyond the prison walls, leaving the past behind, carrying only the lessons, the scars, and the resolve to never let anyone destroy me again. Months later, I sat in the courtroom, listening to the judge's words as if they were coming from far away. The conviction of Ethan Hale is hereby overturned. All charges are dismissed, and his record cleared. I closed my eyes, letting the sound sink in. My chest was tight, my hands trembling slightly. Freedom, finally, after years of being trapped, not just physically, but in lies and betrayal, in the weight of a family that had destroyed me. Lena's hand rested on my shoulder. Congratulations, Ethan, she said softly. Her smile was steady calm. She had believed in me when no one else would, and now that belief had become reality. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Thank you, Lena. I can't believe it. Calvin, joining us via video call from another city, grinned. You did it. Not just for yourself, but for the truth. That's the kind of victory that matters. I let myself smile briefly, though inside, a quiet exhaustion lingered. Years of planning, fighting, surviving, it all led to this moment. But victory felt complicated, heavier than I expected. We have work to do, Lena said, pulling me from my thoughts. Your knowledge, your experience, it can help prevent what happened to you from happening to others. Let's start the firm. I exhaled, a small laugh escaping me. You mean start from scratch? Yes, she said, eyes shining. From scratch, but with freedom, truth, and control this time. Calvin chimed in. Fraud prevention, corporate audits, risk management. People need someone like you who's lived through the worst. I nodded, feeling a spark of purpose ignite. Then let's do it. Let's make sure no one else gets framed. No one else loses everything because of greed. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Opening our own financial consulting firm was exhausting but exhilarating. Lena handled operations with precision. Calvin worked remotely, analyzing corporate structures, uncovering vulnerabilities. I focused on digital auditing, fraud investigation, teaching clients to protect themselves. Through it all, Olivia and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. She didn't rush, and neither did I. There were wounds, memories, and trust to rebuild. But her presence, her quiet support, reminded me of the life I had once lost and the life I could still build. "Ethan," she said one evening, handing me a file with a smile. "You've done more in these months than most people do in years." I looked at her, the light from the office casting soft shadows on her face. "We've done it together," I said, "and I'm learning to live again." Slowly, she nodded, her hand brushing mine. "Slowly is fine. Just keep moving forward." I did. Every day was a step forward. Every client helped was a reminder that my experience had value, that the truth I fought for could now protect others. One afternoon, I found myself standing outside the old Hale Company building. It had been sold months ago, shuttered windows reflecting the sun. The empire that had ruined me, the building that had symbolized control and betrayal, was gone. I ran a hand down my face, inhaling the city air. Memories flashed, handcuffs, whispers, betrayals, the countless nights I had lain awake plotting, planning, surviving. They framed me to survive, to keep their empire, to protect their greed. But I had survived too, and in ways they never could. I thought of Daniel, Marcus, Margaret, my father, Olivia, Lena, Calvin, the people who shaped this journey. Each confrontation, each lesson, each act of courage had led me here. The wind shifted, and I looked up at the empty building. The ghosts of the past lingered, but they held no power over me anymore. I whispered aloud, almost to myself, feeling the words settle into the air like a declaration. I lost my family, but I found my strength, and the truth didn't just set me free. It destroyed the lies that built them. I turned, walking away from the building, each step lighter than the last. The past was behind me. The years of pain and betrayal had shaped me, but they would not define me. I had my freedom, my integrity, and my purpose. And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole. The future wasn't clear, but it was mine. Every choice, every risk, every truth told had led me here. I breathed deeply, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. The sun was warm on my face, and for the first time, I smiled without reservation. I had been broken, betrayed, and silenced, but I had returned with the truth, and that truth had set me free.